A woman once hailed as a Silicon Valley visionary is facing federal fraud charges tonight.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes has now officially been indicted on federal wire fraud charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office accusing her of engaging...
Imagine building a company that everyone thought would change the world, but ended up being one of the biggest frauds in history. Theranos, the company started in 2003 by Stanford dropout Elizabeth Holmes, was just that. They fooled everyone, receiving over $600 million of funding in the process. What Theranos promised was a revolutionary blood analyzer that could run hundreds of tests just from a finger prick in the comfort of your own home. However,
except it was just bullshit. It's not real. It never happened. That was not a real thing. What the fuck? Stanford is literally a fraud incubator. Hello, welcome to capitalism. Capitalism. Most of the fucking things that you don't consider to be, most of the things that you don't even consider to be fraudulent and consider to be like normal fucking rich people behavior is just fraudulent behavior that was able to reach a level of legitimacy before people were like, that's fraudulent, we should do something about it. Or they simply didn't make the mistake like Elizabeth Theranos did, and like Elizabeth Theranos Holmes did, or like Elon Musk is doing currently, which is steal from the poor. I mean, steal from the rich. You can steal from the poor all you fucking want. But the moment that you actually have the audacity to steal from other rich people, you're going to jail, dog. You're going to get punished, okay?
However, this story isn't one of great success or inspiration. This story is about deceit, fraud, manipulation, and a CEO who would...
Her mistake was being a woman. Man, shut up. It's not because she was a woman either. Calm the fuck down. Obviously, there's a lot of fraudulent shit that pops off on Silicon Valley done by men in a big boys club that goes overlooked. But like, don't act like this is the only fucking reason. Okay? Come on. Don't girl boss this shit. Girl bossing is the literal reason why she was able to get away with it in the beginning anyway.
Stop at nothing to get her goal. This is the story of Theranos, a company once worth $9 billion, and the story of how it all came crashing down in one of the worst disasters in Silicon Valley history. What exactly was Theranos, and how did it go so horribly wrong? A billionaire. At age 18, she went on a Stanford-run tour of China where she met a man 20 years her senior called Sunny. Sunny immigrated from Pakistan and had some success in the dot-com boom of 1999, pocketing $40 million in the process. He had what she wanted: money and the status of a successful entrepreneur. Sunny would later play a big role in Elizabeth's company. During another trip to Asia, Elizabeth witnessed the SARS outbreak. From that point, she came home determined to change the world. Upon returning home, she didn't leave her room for 5 days and slept 2 hours a night while working on a patent idea. The idea was to create a wearable patch which could continually test the blood of the wearer and admit the right dose of medicine in real time. Filled with determination, she dropped out of Stanford at age 19 and started her own company. The early days were not glamorous. The office of the new company was in a part of town known for shootings. One day, while in her car, Elizabeth was shot at, with the bullet just narrowly missing her. Despite this, she received a $1 million seed investment from her old neighbour, who had made some money investing in Hotmail. Early on, Elizabeth rode on the reputation of her investors. However, when it came to investors that specialised in medicine, she struggled to convince them as her lack of knowledge started showing. It wasn't a surprise because she had only spent a few semesters at university. So for most tech entrepreneurs, this kind of thing isn't a big issue. For example, Mark Zuckerberg only needed to master coding as a child, and he could have struck it big with little university knowledge. On the other hand, medicine and chemistry are fields that require decades of knowledge and research to find a breakthrough. Regardless, by the end of the year, Elizabeth had nearly $6 million in funding, and her idea had changed. Now, the blood testing would be done by a cartridge and reader system. Here's how it was supposed to work. Patients would prick their fingers, storing blood in a small cartridge. Pushing this cartridge into a machine would run the tests. The Theranos machine...
What? They all declined to talk about Sunny's grooming and the sexual abuse she faced? What do you mean by that? She only got far because she's a woman and people milked her for optics? Wait, I do have radfems in here who are fucking defending Theranos, dude? What the fuck? That's crazy. Wait, she got groomed and faced sexual abuse? Okay, that's fine. Then you're right, actually. She should be allowed to fucking tell your grandfather that, sell your grandfather on a fucking lie that like a little pinprick will be able to quickly fucking figure out all of the necessary medical intervention. That's true. She should do a little bit of fucking fraud, man. I don't understand. Like, she was fucking sexually assaulted. Like, what? Everybody gets that. Hashtag girl bosses get it done. Yeah.
Machines envisioned would perform tests on the spot and beam information via the internet to a lab where personnel would interpret the results and send a report back. Traditionally, the current industry procedure was to draw a syringe full of blood from a vein and physically send the sample to a lab. The old way used large machines the size of several business photocopiers, and the results would take a few days to get back from a doctor. Theranos would try to scale down the components of these massive machines to fit into a box the size of a personal computer. Theranos was going to make this process faster, more comfortable, and completely bypass the need for a doctor. In this particular medical field, there are many components that are used to test blood, each of which performs a different type of test. For example, one test shoots a beam of light into the sample blood and measures the light reflected, while other tests require chemical reactions. Now this is the big lie and the problem with Theranos. There were several issues that made the Theranos machines nearly impossible. Firstly, the components would interfere with each other when placed in close proximity due to a magnitude of problems including heat, light, and electrical activity. Next, to have sufficient volume of test samples from only a pinprick on a finger, the drops of blood had to be diluted. Over-diluted samples gave inaccurate results and was outside the detection capability of the hardware. So in short, for the technology to be possible, Theranos had to make major breakthroughs on all fronts of blood analysis. They had to do all of this while only reporting to Elizabeth, who didn't really have the knowledge. Skipping forward to 2006, Theranos had some momentum and a prototype called the Theranos 1.0. Elizabeth enlisted engineers to design a new version called the Edison. However, no Theranos machine would ever be accurate or capable of performing the full range of tests that Elizabeth claimed. Elizabeth started to push the engineering team manager to make the Edison development run 24/7. When the manager refused, stating that the engineers were overworked as it is, Elizabeth hired a parallel engineering team and pitted the two teams against each other in a survival of the fittest race.
It's called girl bossing, baby. She's allowed to do that.
This kind of thing was actually
even though that's like kind of gross, and like when Elon does it, we would, if Elon were to do such a thing, and he's done like worse shit obviously than that as far as like labor practices goes, we adequately call that out for what it is, but she is a slay queen, you know what I mean?
a tactic that Steve Jobs also used with the original Mac and the iPhone. But in Theranos' case, the losing team would be fired. Elizabeth also started doing some ethically questionable things, such as running a pilot test on cancer patients with the company Pfizer. She knew the product didn't work yet, but insisted on running real tests on people that had serious illnesses. To highlight how serious this was, blood tests are usually used to increase or decrease a patient's dosage of medication or diagnose conditions which may require immediate action. Doctors use lab results to base 70% of their decisions on. If the results are false, it could be fatal. Of course, the only reason the cancer trials went ahead is that Elizabeth had been outright lying to investors and clients about how well the product actually worked. The same year, the company's CFO discovered that Elizabeth had been lying. He told her to stop. Instead of agreeing, she fired him on the spot. After this, Elizabeth never hired another chief financial officer again, leaving the position vacant for a decade. In 2007, there was no bigger Silicon Valley star than Steve Jobs. Elizabeth had started developing an obsession for Jobs. An employee even found a newspaper cutout on her desk where someone...
What's insane is the fact that she had institutional backing behind Theranos. Politicians were botting the company and it never actually worked. It's almost like all these fucking people in with institutional power are just fucking idiots. Something that we have experienced and seen time and time again, including but not limited to the latest iteration with the FTX saga, where so many motherfuckers with proximity to power, with actual power, so many motherfuckers on the VC side were literally just like sucking off FTX as hard as possible. Meanwhile, Sam Bankman-Fried was straight up fucking personally being like, I'm running a Ponzi scheme, as a matter of fact. Have you noticed that I'm running a Ponzi scheme? And everybody was like, nah, dude, nah, dog. This is a great one, though. You say it's a scheme, but it's more like a Ponzi victory, I think. It's awesome.
And called her the next Steve Jobs. The obsession bordered on insanity. For example, after she found out that Steve scheduled marketing meetings on Wednesdays, she would do the same with the same marketing firm that Steve used. She would even recruit a few Apple employees. One of this included one of Steve Jobs' oldest friends and the former senior vice president of software at Apple, Avi Tevanian. He even went out of retirement to join the Theranos board. The board of Theranos was made up of a star-studded panel. Don Lucas, who mentored the founder of Oracle, was the chairman.
Yeah, she should have done Marketing Mondays. You're right. Marketing Wednesdays doesn't have the same hit. If she had kept it a Monday, dude, maybe she wouldn't be in jail right now. Okay, shouts out to Big A.
One day, Elizabeth wanted to restructure the company's shares, which would give her majority voting rights. Ex-Apple employee, Avi, who was on the board, didn't think that this was a good idea, and paired with the information that he'd received.
I mean, she grifted so hard, she literally grifted Henry Kissinger, right? Didn't Henry Kissinger play a role in this too? Which, you know, probably the only good thing she's ever done, but am I misremembering this? An attorney for Henry Kissinger tells jurors he invested $6 million in Theranos after meeting Elizabeth Holmes. $6 million, dude. That's good shit. That's pretty fucking good shit, dude. I love that. He was on the board. He was on the Theranos board. Dr. Kissinger explained to me that he was on the board of Theranos, and it was a very interesting company. He said it would be terrific if you take the time to learn about the company and give me your views on it. Mosley testified that Holmes was looking for high-quality families to invest. During his conversations with Holmes, Mosley said he began evaluating a potential investment for himself. I was still looking at it with the intent to tell Dr. Kissinger what I thought about it, Mosley said, adding that he found it to be personally interesting. That's awesome. I mean, that's fire. Not gonna lie to y'all, her black turtleneck girl boss fit means so much to me. I copy her look all the time at work. The problem with Elizabeth is that, like, first of all, she's going to prison for 11 years. Okay, so that's a problem. So the prison baby thing didn't work that well for her. Like, she quite literally, for the record, I know for a motherfucking fact, okay? I've met Elizabeth. I've met Elizabeth Theranos Holmes, first of all, okay? By way of other friends. We have mutual friends. So that's number one. Number two, I know for a motherfucking fact she had that baby deliberately in the time that she did, so that her sentencing would be lower. That was a sympathy child, okay? I'm not even kidding. I'm not lying to you. 1,000,000%. So that's one thing. Okay. You're just going to drop that without explaining. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. Do not worry about it. First of all, what do you mean? What kind of friends? Like, you know, these people fucking have like normal friends. Okay. It's not like everyone is a scammer. It doesn't work that way. It's not like, oh, dude, Elizabeth Theranos, all of her friends or all of her fucking husband's friends must be all fucking scammers. Like, that's not how that works. Okay? You're so fucking out of touch, Lamau. Wait, what? Normal? Yeah, brother, normal. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm talking like accountants and shit. You know, these people go to college, right? Like, they meet friends and then they have friends of friends from like college. I don't know if you know that. Like, that's what I mean when I say normies, okay? That is such a fucking idiotic assessment. That is like a completely out of touch thing. Nah, you're right. I too know the friends of billionaires. What? I'm so glad that people with this level of mental illness are actually going to no longer have an outlet, so that this Twitch stream will be the outlet for their mental insanity. Like, you can have a degree of separation from people, it's a normal thing. A lot of you probably have that without even recognizing it. It's not like I was fucking hanging out with her every goddamn weekend. One time is how I met her at a friend's birthday party. Chatters can't imagine that people on the internet have friends who aren't chronically online yet. Chatters are so fucking delusional that they act like degrees of separation do not exist. You know what I mean? They're like, what? I don't have any friends. So how could you have a friend that also knows this insane person? Yes, that friend, Henry Kissinger. Exactly. I think the point is that your social circle overlaps with social circles that most of us do not overlap with. Yeah, no shit, brother. I live in California. I live in Los Angeles. I've been living here for 10 fucking years. I'm also, I don't know if you know this, somewhat famous. So there is that as well. And have been in the online entertainment industry for, almost a decade. So there's that. Some of those connections come from that. Others come from just being, just going to college, Yeah. I don't know if you guys know this, but I also, like, all those other people that you watch on screen when you go to twitch.tv or YouTube, I'm friends with them in real life. I know that's going to come across shocking to you. Motherfuckers in the chat are like, what? You know Pokimane? Shut the fuck up, dude. Yo, you're so out of touch, dog. That's crazy. Like, this might come as a surprise to you, but also, for example, Elon Musk's baby mama, Grimes, okay? She was here on this broadcast. Like, I know her. That's, yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Received from employees about the problems during testing, he felt like he had to do something. He spoke with Don Lucas, the chairman, but this resulted in AV resigning after he felt that his advice fell on deaf ears. Elizabeth had the board wrapped around her finger. She was a master manipulator. She spoke in a low baritone voice in order to be taken more seriously.
The question was, as a 19-year-old, how do you go about the process of convincing people that you know what you're doing? It's about finding people who believe in you, because the worst possible thing in the world is to have someone who doesn't believe in you backing you, because that's not going to result in a good situation.
On occasion, she forgot to put on the voice and was caught using a natural voice before realizing and dropping several tones.
No, it hasn't. Well, if I use traditional words to describe what we're doing,
This is one of the funniest parts about this. Oh, that's good.
because people then associate it with conventional processes for analyzing drugs and development.
Shortly after the company moved to a prime location in Silicon Valley, a new member of the sales team soon found out that the financial projections were based off pilot tests that weren't honest. The issue was brought to the board, who ran an emergency meeting and decided to fire Elizabeth. 2 hours after they brought her in to tell her the decision, she had convinced them to reverse it. This incredible power of persuasion is another reason why Theranos went so far with no real working technology.
I don't remember her voice, chatters. I don't remember. We were at a fucking Mutual's birthday party. Okay, I don't remember. I'm sorry. I failed you. Murat was also there. Bother him next time. He's in the chat.
Shortly after the meeting, Elizabeth fired those who raised the alarm. By this stage, employees leaving or being fired was common. In fact, all employees who came from Apple would leave in just a couple of years. Medical demonstration video company for $50 million. In a few years' time, Richard would go to court with Theranos over the patent he made, which in private he called the Theranos killer. Richard's patents wouldn't go on to kill Theranos, but his actions would. By 2009, Sunny, the millionaire Pakistani immigrant, was now Elizabeth's boyfriend and had joined the company as second in charge. Sunny came from a software background and had little knowledge of the inner workings of a medical company. He claimed to have written 10 million lines of code while at Microsoft, but the average developer at Microsoft only writes 1,000 lines a year. He also boasted of having extreme wealth and only coming to work because he wanted to. He also had a habit of latching onto buzzwords and using them despite little knowledge of the topic.
Yikes.
Engineers would use terms out of context to see if we'd continue to use them. He did. But Sunny knew how to control people. He was feared within the company. He constantly fired people and let his tempers flare. 2010 saw a whole lot of money pouring into Silicon Valley. Facebook, Twitter, and Uber were all taking off. Meanwhile, Walgreens and Safeway had both entered talks with Theranos to partner and create wellness centers. These were sections in their stores where patients could get blood tests. Theranos presented Walgreens with 192 different tests that could be performed by their Edison machine. However, only about half of them were even theoretically possible. The only proof that the technology worked was a review from Johns Hopkins Medical School. The document was only 2 pages long and summarized a meeting where Theranos showed the university representatives some data results. No actual testing was done on the machines themselves. But Theranos was hot stuff, and Walgreens...
Like, that's the crazy thing, is that, like, this is medical tech, man. I really thought that there would be more of a thorough investigation into medical technology. And not just like, oh man, well, they're clouded and other people that are clouded in the field agree with them, so I'm just going to go along with it. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. He said the second biggest scam. The biggest is React Andy content. Yeah. The amount of people that I have falsely got into believing that they don't have cancer as a consequence of my React Andy content is unimaginable. Okay? When you watch me fucking react to YouTube videos, okay? It's basically the same as like doing a pinprick, okay, on your thumb and then magically having your cancer disappear. That's how it works.
Walgreens had the fear of missing out and letting their competitors land a partnership. Elizabeth also made such an impression on the Walgreens and Safeway executives that they trusted every word she said. Combined, Safeway and Walgreens gave Theranos a...
To be fair, though, React Randall stuff does bring in some of the most cancerously brain-broken motherfuckers into the chat, who then I do subsequently reply to, and therefore probably do end up giving you brain cancer. So, you know, there you go. Here's your diagnosis.
$105 million in investment and loans. Around this time, Elizabeth realized that the Edison wasn't good enough, so she commissioned the Minilab, the third iteration of the blood testing product. Meanwhile, Sunny intimidated employees and watched CCTV footage of them to see exactly how long people were working. One time, he told an employee that he would, quote, fix him after finding that he'd only worked 8 hours per day. Elizabeth backed up the decision, stating to employees that, quote, if anyone here believes that you are not working on the best thing humans have ever built, or if you're cynical, then you should leave, end quote. Basically, anyone who agreed with Elizabeth got promoted, and those who doubted got fired. By 2012, Safeway wasn't doing well. They had poured $350 million into renovations of store space across their store locations in anticipation for the Theranos machines. They were only met with constant launch delays and excuses. When Theranos did start accepting Safeway employee samples, they were tested on existing commercial third-party machines in a lab. But Safeway was lied to and given the impression that all of these tests were being performed on Theranos Edison machines.
They weren't even running most of the tests on the Theranos devices, and most of the tests were being run on third-party machines.
Did Ms. Holmes know at the time that Theranos could not do all those?
Does this not sound similar to Elon? Yes, the only difference is like Elon went the stock market route, Okay. And Elon also didn't have like Elon is giving you a car. Okay. And at least like there's a car that you can drive now. Right. So you can use a bunch of different things to like keep your stock afloat and, have your stock be considered as a tech company, which is like a great way to avoid further scrutiny. Elon also is a man that definitely, plays a role. Elon also bought the idea. That's another difference. Like if you asked Elon to create something from zero, from the ground up, it would look like this. But Elon had enough money from PayPal to be able to just buy into a pre-existing product. He still was able to grift his way into turning that pre-existing product into something that it really isn't, and have its valuation skyrocket. Oh, please, it would look way worse than this. Sophie 69, I'm sorry, but like this is pretty much bottom of the barrel. Like at least the fucking cars go, you know what I mean? You sit in it, you can fucking drive it. Like this wasn't a thing. This was just a lie from start to finish. Okay. I know you want to defend the girl bossing, but goddamn, like, I mean, you're lying to cancer patients, man. I don't know how to fucking defend this. Like, I don't know how you can look at this from like a feminist angle as like, yeah, no, this is pretty fire. Like, I just like examining the social factors surrounding her too. Okay, well, examine a little harder on the victim side then. There's a lot of fraud in the medical sector, okay? It's all gross. Examine those other ones as well and say, "Hey, maybe they should get punished as hard as Theranos did," okay? That's valid. Cuz men wouldn't get the same treatment. I mean, that's crazy, dude. Like Martin Shkreli exists, he got fucking yeeted. There are examples of this, and what he did was bad, but this is arguably worse. Let her cook. I mean, yeah, no, I got 7 years for 7 mil. Holmes got 15 years for 700 mil. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you can girl boss this up. I'm gonna be honest. Like I don't know what the girl boss angle is here that doesn't make you sound like a fucking psycho. Like I don't think there is one, man. It's pretty bad. What she did is like really, really fucked up. I don't know how else to describe it. Like you can't say she was faking it till she made it because there was no future in sight where she could have possibly made it. It wasn't like it's not like she was actually actively working on the back end on making this medical technology become a reality. If anything, she was actually further stopping efforts by being like, we have the product already. Like the tech exists now. You know what I mean? When it didn't. You've talked about this before?
Kidding me? Oh my God, I hate women. I hate women so much. I've literally never hated women and feminists more in this fucking very moment than I do right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God.
There you go. That's how I feel currently.
Those tests?
She knew.
Meanwhile,
I know the defense of Holmes as a victim of sexism is like literally a entire genre of it's there's always this is okay, here's the thing, okay? That argument is not even wrong because that argument is supposed to be about how much fraudulent behavior happens in tech. But it's written in the worst fucking way you could write an article. Okay? That's the worst part. Because like it's true. So much of this horrifyingly fraudulent behavior gets brushed aside in the boys club, partially because it's not just all boys, but also because like there's a lot of money to be made, okay? Hi, Tina Kitten. Like most of Silicon Valley is fake it till you make it. It just depends on who you're faking it to and how hard you're faking it. And do you have the capacity to make it? Or if you fail to make it, will people literally be falsely thinking that they don't have cancer when they do? Okay? That's the main difference. And ultimately, I firmly believe you will enjoy this bench of people content. That photo right behind me with me and Marat is literally from that birthday party. Yeah, look at how handsome you are in that photo with your long hair. At least your hair is growing again.
He told George about the Edison's inaccuracy and the constant failing of quality control tests. He told him about how Theranos had duped everyone by testing samples on existing third-party commercial machines and not Theranos' own Edison machines. Incredibly, Elizabeth had put such a spell on George Schultz that he would disregard everything his grandson Tyler told him. In mid-2014, Fortune magazine released a front-page story titled, "This CEO is out for blood." This rockets Elizabeth to celebrity status, and from this
By the way, they did this with fucking Elon Musk as well. All of these institutions are fucking fraudulent. They hype up fraudulent motherfuckers.
point, she is constantly making media appearances. Forbes, USA Today, NPR, Fox Business, CNBC, CNN, and CBS News all took their turn to cover the success story of the youngest ever self-made female billionaire. Barack Obama made Elizabeth the US ambassador for global entrepreneurship, and she was added to the board of fellows at Harvard Medical School. Elizabeth enjoyed the fame. She grew her security team to 20. Her office was redesigned to look like the president's Oval Office, complete with bulletproof glass. Elizabeth spoke on a TED Talk about her idea to change the world. She said soon no one would have to say goodbye too soon, and went on to tell the audience of a heartfelt story about how her uncle had passed away from cancer. But of course, the TED Talk...
Meanwhile, what's up? Like the company still doesn't have a CFO. That's how they're operating? They got no fucking chief financial officer? That's crazy.
was merely an act. In reality, she wasn't even close to her uncle and had just exploited his death for her narrative. Meanwhile, cracks were beginning to crumble the empire. Richard, by this stage, had created a gang of Theranos skeptics, including Ian's widow, Rochelle. They collected information and then took it to John Carreyrou at the Wall Street Journal. As John began investigating, countless sources and former employees came out of the woodwork. They anonymously provided information about the story. Theranos attacked everyone who was talking. They used their pile of money and they threatened to sue everyone else who spoke to the Wall Street Journal. They even hired private investigators to stalk anyone they suspected. Several letters were sent to the Wall Street Journal.
Bro, this is literally Elon Musk. Like, watching this back-to-back is so funny. Watching this back-to-back after Jabari's Elon Musk video is pretty funny to think about because, like, it's exactly the same. Like, almost exactly the fucking same. It's crazy.
To try and kill the story. Threatening
it's like, I'm gonna tie up the saga completely by watching a Sam Bankman-Fried video for you to understand that, like, all these motherfuckers do the same shit.
Defamation lawsuits. Rupert Murdoch, the owner of the Wall Street Journal and investor in Theranos, was asked by Elizabeth to personally kill the story. He refused, stating that he had confidence in the editors to handle the truth, whatever it may be. The reaction from Theranos was intense, and the story wasn't even out yet. Business as usual continued at Theranos. Elizabeth was making White House appearances often then, but under the veneer, the machines could still only do a small number of tests and were inaccurate with even just those. Theranos continued to demonstrate the mini-lab for VIP guests. They pricked their finger, then waited until they left, and then went on to use existing commercial third-party lab machines to return the results. Vice President Joe Biden even paid Theranos a visit. He was shown a fake lab that was set up just for the visit.
Not Brandon.
Saying that it was the lab of the future and praised Theranos. The dark truth about Theranos was finally unveiled in the Wall Street Journal article of October 15th, 2015. It was a bombshell. All the major news articles picked it up. People began questioning Theranos and its secrecy. Elizabeth took it all in her stride, not shying away from the questions, but instead outright lying to the public. It appeared that she thought everyone would just believe her again, but this time it was different. Now people were asking serious questions.
And just this morning, the Wall Street Journal
I guess this is when they recognized she was a woman.
ran a pretty scathing article about the company, alleging that the company's proprietary testing devices
It's so funny because on the one hand, there's like people saying like, oh, she only reached that level of success because she's a woman, which is false. And not because she was a woman, but because she was a sociopath. And on the other hand, there are people who are saying, well, she only got punishment because she's a woman, which is also not true. Okay? Check the records. Hasanabi backed Theranos. Bro, check your brain, dog. Okay? Calm down. Why do you do this? Why? Yeah, I did. I gave them a small loan of $10 million. Okay, so what? All so I could finally make a return on that investment and tell you that at the top of the hour there's a 6-second ad break and gift subs. And I can't.
the founder and CEO of Theranos, to give her a chance to answer the charges raised in the article. Ms. Holmes, welcome back to Mad Money.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
What do you think's going on here?
This is what happens when you work to change things. And first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world. And I have to say, I personally wish.
The voice is so funny. It's just like, I can't get over it, dude. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Honestly, I mean, yeah. First they say you're crazy and then you win.
Shocked to see that the journal would publish something like this.
Just as the story had been published, the FDA made a surprise inspection at Theranos. In further investigations, it was found that the Theranos Edison blood testing
791,
machine
baby,
only
let's go.
performed 12 out of 250 tests, and even those produced wildly erratic results. Now, Theranos was in full damage control. Elizabeth broke up with Sonny and fired him. A criminal investigation was underway, and a probe by the Securities and Exchange Commission was also proceeding. The investors began suing Theranos one by one. Partner Fund sued for $100 million, Walgreens for $140 million. Elizabeth had to close the trial lab and had to pay $4.5 million to Arizona State, where most patients had received testing. Theranos had voided nearly 1 million lab results.
Why does she sound like me in my first week of FTM voice training? Stop. Oh, no.
10 patients would sue Theranos for medical battery. But shockingly, amongst all of this, Elizabeth never apologized. It seemed to her merely a mistake along the way which could be fixed. So Elizabeth and Sonny both knew what they were doing. Lying to
Nikki,
investors,
nap
their
time. Thank you for the 20 gift the subs.
clients, the regulators, patients, and even their own board. No one outside can be blamed for not realizing the fraud ahead of time. Even the board, made up of seasoned professionals, was masterfully manipulated into giving Elizabeth 99.7% of the voting rights. She seemed, by all accounts, a sociopath, willing to stop at nothing to make her company a success, not caring who or what got in her way, and who knows how far the lie could have gone. She continued with all smiles and lies even after the truth came out. Elizabeth's actions could be a microcosm, a case for a modern problem in society where the need to be successful, or at least appear successful, outweighs everything else. There's possibly another fault at play here, a fault in the human condition. It's the illusionary effect, where if you repeat a lie enough times, people start to believe it, especially if you have credible names surrounding the product. The SEC settled with Elizabeth Holmes in March of 2018. She lost voting control, had to give away her portion of the stock, and was banned from being an officer or director of any public company for 10 years. Sonny still hasn't reached a settlement with the SEC. Both Sonny and Elizabeth have been indicted on criminal charges in an ongoing lawsuit at the time of this video. They have both pleaded not guilty and each face 20 years in prison.
Well, she went for 11. As of today, ladies and gentlemen, there's an update on this story. That's the reason why we're watching. Miss Melzy, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Elizabeth Theranos Holmes has been sentenced to 11.25 years in prison. What a weird way to write that. 11 and a quarter. 11.25 years in prison. That's right. Holmes also fined $400 million special assessment. Holmes must surrender to custody on April 27, 2023. Holmes is expected to appeal. The judge presiding over Holmes' trial and sentencing said the landmark case, one of the most closely watched in Silicon Valley history, should be a cautionary tale for founders who are willing to overhype the capabilities of their products. Yeah, fucking right, dude. Okay, that's a silly one, especially considering that, like, everyone's going to jail. Okay? Everyone's going to jail, dog. Everyone's going to jail, motherfucker. I suppose we step back and ask what is the pathology of fraud? Is it the refusal to accept responsibility or express contrition in any way? Judge Edward Davila said. Perhaps that is the cautionary tale that will go forward from this case. In letters submitted to the court in support of Holmes, Davila noted that the venture capitalists point to the fact that the startup failures are normal and investors are expected to lose 90% of the money that they invest. One thing that was missing from those letters, the letters did not say anything about, nor did they endorse failure by fraud. Before the sentencing, Davila said that under the U.S. sentencing guideline considerations, the court found that Holmes should serve between 11.25 years and 14 years in prison. The court's calculation as to the reasonable total loss sustained by the identified victims of the fraud was costing a total of $121 million. On Friday, Holmes, 38, appeared for sentencing in the San Jose Hold on, sorry. I'm looking something up on the side. San Jose District Courthouse, where a jury in January found her guilty of 3 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of conspiracy. In convicting Holmes, the jury found she lied to investors who fueled roughly $900 million into the biotech venture. $900 million. As Davila read Holmes' sentence out loud to a packed courtroom, the former CEO and one-time Silicon Valley darling was visibly pregnant with her second child in a long black skirt and blazer. Holmes was accompanied in court by her partner, Billy Evans, and her mother, Noelle Holmes. I stand before you taking responsibility for Theranos. I love Theranos. It was my life's work. My team meant the world to me. They wanted to make a difference in the world. I am devastated by my failings. Every day for the past years, I have felt deep pain for the people. Those people who believed in us and those patients I worked so hard to serve. Bro, what do you mean? You served them nothing. You've served them lies. I worked so hard to serve them lies. I gave everything I had to try and build Theranos. Looking back, there are so many things I would do differently. I tried to realize my dream too quickly. Yeah, no, that's what happened. Marat says I'm a hater. He's sitting in the corner over here saying I'm hating. I'm hating on a girl boss. You know what it is? It's because it's my hatred for women that I hate to see a girl boss thrive. You know what I mean? That's what's going on here. While Holmes is expected to appeal her sentence, Friday's hearings brings to a close the former Silicon Valley superstar's multi-billion-dollar downfall that began in 2003. When at 19 years old, she dropped out of Stanford University with a dream to democratize healthcare. Why are they still lying about this? No, it was a dream to make money, okay? There was no democratization of healthcare dream there. That was never a part of the consideration. It's like her real dream was just to make money, okay? And rip off people. That's it. Anyway, Holmes' confidant, Ramesh Sunny Balwani, who was her boyfriend at the time she ran Theranos and served as company's president and chief operating officer, was convicted in July 12 on 12 similar fraud charges. His sentencing is scheduled to happen at a later date. For nearly 15 years, Holmes worked tirelessly to grow the blood testing company, dazzling investors and pushing for innovative technology. We already saw. However, she and Balwani falsely told investors that Theranos' proprietary blood analyzer could run conventional laboratory tests from a finger stick blood sample of just a few drops of blood rather than the traditionally large volumes taken using traditional vein draws. They also lied and stated the company was profitable and its technology had been comprehensively validated by multiple major pharmaceutical companies. What is this? One of my favorite Twitter memories was the time I tweeted, "Is it true that you're 4 feet tall?" at Ben Shapiro, and one of his followers got so mad he emailed the president of Brown University, causing our grad director to send this email to all of us, later emblazoned on a plaque. It has come to my attention that there are people on the internet who do not wish you well. That's a funny ass fucking email, dog.